Mr. Manella?
Here.
Mr. Davis? Here. Mr. Fitzmaurice? Here. Mr. Doherty? Here. Mr. Drum? Here, Madam Secretary. Mr. Randolph? Here.
This time we would respectfully ask that everyone silence their phones and any electronic devices. If you wish to appeal any recommendation of the Commission, appeals cards are to our right. If you wish to speak in front of the Commission, we would ask that you fill out a speaker's card for our records. Each side will be provided 10 minutes to present or oppose and 5 minutes of rebuttal. Lastly, at the end of every case, if you wish to discuss it further with any of your colleagues, we would ask that you leave the building, as if you go into the back foyer, it does echo into the chamber. This time we would ask you to rise with an invocation by Commissioner Randolph, followed by a Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Drum.
From times past throughout this day to this very moment, Lord, you watched over and protected us. You showed us your grace and mercy. We thank you for our families. We thank you for this commission. Lord, we thank you for each and every one of us that's here to make decisions for this parish and our communities. We thank you for our communities and all families that make it up, our parish and all of our staff, and all these blessings, Lord. We ask that you also be with the sick and shut in here and everywhere, and a special blessing upon Dale Mackey and his family. Be with them, encourage them through their bereavement, and all these blessings we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In our package are the minutes from the October 10th, 2017 the minutes from the October 10th, 2017 meetings. Please review them, and I'll entertain any motions. Commissioner Randolph. Motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve. Commissioner Lauren. Second by Commissioner Lauren. Any further questions or comments? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve. Second by Commissioner Lauren. Please vote.
Motion carries.
This is a public hearing. The public is encouraged to speak on behalf of or in opposition of any of the cases we are to hear. Entering parish right-of-way, servitudes and easements. Entering parish right-of-way, Desire, Estate, and Robert Street. Ward 3, District 2. Request to enter parish right-of-way for the purpose of gaining access to property. The debtor, Steadfast Development, LLC. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable David Fitzgerald. Staff?
Yes. This request to enter parish right-of-way, specifically the unopened portion of Desire Street, Estate Street, and Robert Street, and Robindale subdivision for the purpose of gaining access to property.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Manella. Paul Marone on behalf of Steadfast Development, LLC, which is the owner of the lots along these streets. You may recall that I appeared before you several months ago and requested permission to enter in homestead in the western portion of Desire. What we learned after that approval was granted was that in order to handle some of the drainage work that we needed to do, we needed to get into the streets that we're requesting this evening. So this is part of that same project. Your approval this evening will allow us to get in and work on some of the existing ponds that are in that area that were previously constructed that have some issues. Also to address some of the outfall issues that we'll need to do in order to accommodate bringing these lots online. So we would respectfully request your approval of our petition to enter the right-of-way. We have no problem with any of the conditions or provisions set forth in the resolution, and we'd ask for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close to the public and I bring it to the Commission. Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to approve. Commissioner Willie. second by Commissioner Willie. Any further comments? We have a motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice, second by Commissioner Willie. Please vote.
Motion carries.
Petitions, requests, we have none. Entering the Tammany Trace, we have none. Revocations, closing review, we have none. Re-subdivision review, we have none. Dormant subdivision review, we have none. Tentative subdivision review. 2017-839-TP, Lone Oak Park. Excuse me, 1 minute. Thank you. Correction on the minor subdivisions. 2017-838-MSP, a 17.03 acre parcel into parcels A1, C1, and D1, Ward 4, District 5. Owner, Eric Gay. Surveyor, J.V. Burks and Associates, Inc. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Reichert Toledano. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a proposed three-lot minor subdivision. The reason why a public hearing is required is parcel D1 does not meet the minimum public road frontage of 150 feet pursuant to the A2 zoning, suburban zoning district standards. The owner is proposing to create three parcels from a 17.03 acre parcel. And since a private drive will provide access to only one parcel, which is parcel C1, said drive is not required to be built to a parish standard pursuant to section 40-045 minimum standards for a private drive of subdivision ordinance regulatory ordinance 499. However, if the commission decides to approve this request, a waiver of the regulations are required relative to the lot width issue for that said lot, and a 2/3 majority vote of the full membership of the commission, 8 members, is needed in order to approve pursuant to section 40-100 waiver of regulations of subdivision ordinance 499. Furthermore, since the request complies with all other code requirements except for the lot width issue for that one parcel, the staff has no objections to the proposed minor subdivision request with the waiver.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here? If you come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, sir, and
All right, my name's Thomas H. Buell. Mr. Gay is just one of the property owners. There's 5 of us that actually own that entire piece in different sections.
and the reason for the request.
Actually, Mr. Gay already owns 1.5 acres. He's buying 3/4 of an acre from us to attach to his 1.5 acres. There's a 7-acre piece in the front that was already a part of another minor subdivision. When I split off the 3 acres after Katrina to build my house, the owner of that 7 acres is adding 1.5 acres of this property to that 7, and then that 7 becomes part of the 17 that Ron's talking about. So it comes into another minor subdivision. So in fact, and then I retain ownership on a 5.5 acre piece of that. So that's basically the reason for the request.
Thank you, sir.
If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Randolph. Motion to approve with the waiver. Commissioner Drum. Second by Commissioner Drum. Any further comments? Please vote.
Motion carries with waiver.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tentative subdivision review, 2017-839-TP, Lone Oak Park, Phase 2, Ward 8, District 14. Developer owner Mark Grimaldi. Engineer J.V. Burks and Associates, Inc. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable T.J. Smith. The developer's request to postpone until the December meeting. Staff?
I have no further comments.
Is the petitioner here? Is there anyone in the public who wishes to speak in favor of this request from staff? Seeing none, staff, do you have any further explanation as to why they would like it postponed?
I'm
Ron?
sorry, we're talking about tentative? I'm sorry, I was talking.
Yeah, tentative subdivision review
Yes,
vote.
yes, they want to meet with the council member. There's some potential issues that they want to work out prior to having a public hearing.
Thank you. Again, is there anyone in the public who wishes to speak in favor or in opposition of this? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Randolph. Motion by Commissioner Randolph to postpone for 1 month until next meeting. Commissioner Richardson. Second by Commissioner Richardson. Any further comments? If not, we have a motion to postpone for 1 month by Commissioner Randolph, second by Commissioner Richardson. Please vote.
Motion carries.
Preliminary subdivision review, 2017-823-PP. Deer Crossing resubmitted, Ward 1, District 1, developer owner, Deer Crossing LLC, engineer Kelly McHugh and Associates, Inc., Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Marty Dean. Staff.
Preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office and an inspection of the site was made. The following comments must be addressed before a work order will be issued. Informational items, number 1, provide all applicable state, local, and federal permits required for Deer Crossing. 2, provide written approval of the plans from the utility provider. 3, the traffic impact analysis must be resubmitted using traffic counts no older than 1 year. On the subdivision plat, number 4, revise restrictive covenant number 12 to state the retention pond area and drainage servitudes shall be owned and maintained by St. Tammany Parish. Number 5, an access servitude granted in favor of the HOA is required for the portion of the trail system located within the retention pond area. A hold harmless and indemnification agreement is also required. Number 6, the benchmark information needs to be added to the preliminary plat. 7, a restrictive covenant stating that subsurface drainage within the subdivision will not be allowed. On the paving and drainage plan, number 8, the proposed outfall at the western side of the pond discharges into adjacent property that's not currently in the parish maintenance system. Previously submitted plans in May of 2015 did not include this outfall location. Provide the authority to drain as indicated on the proposed plan. Number 9, the barrier curb detail must be revised in order to conform with Ordinance 499. No maintenance obligation is required since the subdivision fronts on Highway 1085, which is maintained by LADOTD. Mandatory developmental fees will be required at final submittal in accordance with Subdivision Ordinance 499 since no public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. The developer is hereby advised that upon application for final subdivision approval, the engineer of record for this development shall certify in writing that all aspects of construction have been completed in accordance with the approved plans and parish ordinances. If any construction activity is proposed that is not in substantial compliance with the approved plans and parish ordinances, the engineer of record for the development shall notify in writing the Department of Development prior to beginning said construction activity. The developer and/or engineer of record shall obtain written approval from the Department of Development prior to beginning any proposed construction activity that's not in substantial compliance with the approved plans and parish ordinances. Revised drawings will not be accepted prior to the November 14, 2017 Planning Commission meeting to ensure that any additional comments established at the meeting can be incorporated into the revised plans. The Department of Development Planning has the following comments.
Excuse me, the following comments are what was agreed to by the developer at the preliminary hearing in May of 2016 as follows, and should be reinstated for this subdivision. 1, the Planning Commission approved a 30-foot setback for corner lots for driveways for lots 1, 73, and 81, and all other lots must meet the 60-foot setback requirements pursuant to code. Therefore, restricted covenant number 10 must be amended accordingly to reflect that. Comment 2, a notation needs to be put on the subdivision plat referencing the following. An aggregate walkway path shall be provided for the athletic field and basketball court, and a natural cover shall be provided around the detention pond. Comment 3, a notation needs to be put on the subdivision plat indicating that the active amenities shall be installed upon the issuance of the 5th occupancy permit. And number 4, they did submit previously a recreational development plan that the staff has no problems with.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Maroon on behalf of Deer Crossing LLC. This is a resubmittal from an approval that you all granted of these plans and this subdivision about a little over a year ago. We were delayed as a result of Entergy seeking to acquire a portion of this property along the interstate for a transmission line that was coming through, which that eminent domain proceeding stayed, if you will, our ability to move forward with the subdivision. Now that that issue is resolving itself, we're seeking to move forward, but the year has lapsed, so we're back before you seeking approval again for basically the same project you saw before. There are some comments that have come up this go-round that Jay just read into the record. I'd like to respond to a few of those, give you an update on some of those, so you'll have the most current information. With regards to the traffic impact analysis, we have completed the new counts and we have rerun all of the programs, and I can report to you that traffic impact analysis has not changed from what was approved a year ago. The new counts did not make any material difference whatsoever, so the levels of service are not affected. With regards to item 7 and the outfall to the adjacent property, our engineers have been on the phone with Mr. Watson earlier today about that. Currently, this property sheet flows to that direction. We have historical data as well as current topographical data, which shows that the water is going that way. So that natural drain will simply continue. There was a concern about the pond and that water being put into a pipe and then divert and then allowing it to go that way, since today it more or less sheet flows across. We have revised, or in the process of revising, the outfall of that pond so that it will not discharge directly through a pipe into the adjacent property, but rather there'll be a berm built so that that sheet flow will continue as it does today to mimic the existing criteria or circumstances under which that water flows now. So there is a servitude of natural drain as it stands today. That water will continue to use that natural drain in the same manner in which it does today. So we believe that that item will be addressed by our new design. With regards to Mr. Keller's comments, we have no dispute with the items he has here. You may remember we talked in detail the last go-round about the development of the amenities, the timing, how many houses, and his comments here accurately reflect my notes, and we would simply ask that you give us the approval subject to these very same criteria, as we intend to abide by those as we were a year ago. Other than that, the only other item that I would point out to you, and I just wanted to make clear, is that if you will look at the preliminary plat, you will see that along Highway 1085, other than where the retention pond is located, there is a 50-foot green space there. That other than where the pond is, that area along Highway 1085 is in fact going to be a no-cut area. So on our final plat, we will reflect that, but I wanted to make that clear. We discussed this the last time around, and we've committed to doing that, and so we're going to show that on the final plat and continue through with that commitment. Other than that, we would respectfully request your consideration in reapproving this project for preliminary. The rest of the staff comments we have no objection to and will comply with as written, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners may have.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Paul, just looking at it, and the athletic field, is it lit?
No.
Or the basketball court? 'Cause I see it's surrounded by homes. I don't know what the intentions are there.
No.
Just a pretty good sized field.
It will not be lit.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, sir.
Item number 4, no, I'm sorry, number 5. Can you explain the hold harmless and indemnification agreement?
My appreciation, and Mr. Watson can correct me if I'm wrong, but the detention pond will be dedicated to the parish and maintained by the parish. However, we show a walking path in that area that will ultimately be maintained by the parish. So, since we'll be utilizing the area, the parish would want the hold harmless there and
Gotcha.
indemnity to make sure that if there was some accident, that we would indemnify them from that damage.
Thank you, thank you.
Commissioner Dougherty?
Paul, on the restrictive covenant where it says subsurface drainage within the subdivision will not be allowed, and this may be something for Jay, why is that? I mean,
That's, the subdivision was proposed with open ditches, and it was stated by the developer's engineer that it wasn't supposed to be subsurface drainage. It wasn't possible, so we don't want to have a future petition for subsurface drainage within the subdivision.
so if a homeowner wanted to put subsurface drainage in, they can't.
This would preclude that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Randolph? Motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve. Second by Commissioner Willie. Any further comments? Seeing none, we have a motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve, second by Commissioner Willie. Please vote.
Motion carries.
2017-824-PP, Hunter's Haven, Phase 1, Ward 4, District 4. Developer owner, Favre Investments, LLC. Engineer, Kelly McHugh and Associates, Inc. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Michael Lorino, Jr. Developer requests postponement until the December meeting. Staff, any comment?
No comment. The developer requested postponement in order to address comments.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here? Mr. Marone?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Paul Marone again. I represent Mr. Favre, and who's the owner and developer of this track. As Mr. Watson noted, we're still working with some of the staff comments, and we had a slight redraw with regards to the street layout, which required us to need a little bit more time. So we would appreciate postponing until your December meeting.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak in favor of the postponement? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Lauren.
Make a motion.
Motion by
Make a
Commissioner.
motion to approve that this item be postponed till the December meeting.
Motion by Commissioner Lauren to postpone until the December meeting. Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Any further comments? Please vote.
Motion carries.
2017-825-PP, Versailles Business Park, Phase 2, Ward 3, District 5. Developer owner, Dobbins Group. Engineer, Duplantis Design Group, PC. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Reichert Toledano. Staff?
Preliminary plans have been reviewed by this office and an inspection of the site was made. It's recommended that the preliminary submittal be approved. No maintenance obligation is required since no construction is proposed. Since the developer has no end users, the mandatory developmental fees are not due prior to signing the subdivision plat but are due upon building permit application.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Manella. Paul Marone again on behalf of Versailles Business Park, LLC. This case and I believe the case after it, final for this very same parcel, obviously, are sister cases. You may recall some time ago sitting as the zoning commission where you all approved the zoning of what you see here as Lot 7 for multifamily use. And you may recall that there was a lot of negotiation and discussions and ultimately an agreement between the proposed developer of that site and Versailles subdivision. which ultimately led to the council approving that rezoning. So it is with that in mind that we come before you this evening asking to create Lot 7 to be able to move forward with that project and to go to sale. On the original PUD plan, what you see as Lot 7 actually comprised numerous other lots. However, they were not approved through the planning process. So we have amended the PUD to reflect what you see here. There is no infrastructure that's needed. Lot 7 fronts Holiday Square Boulevard, which is an existing street. You may wonder about Lot 8. Lot 8 will have access through a predial servitude, so it will have legal access. And likewise, there is no construction needed on any of these lots or any other improvements required. So we would respectfully request your approval of preliminary so that we might move forward onto the next case, final, so that we may in fact plat these two parcels. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners may have about this.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium. If you can, sir. Yes, two different. There are two different cases.
Well, I'm not sure I understand enough to differentiate, but I oppose the PUD as it is now. What I cited was 007, one ended up with 007. Is that this next part?
Can you make it to the podium, sir, or can we accommodate him in some way to?
Any kind of mixed media presentation, we need to see prior to the meeting. You have some maps or something? Sure, we would have to be able to see them before you could show it to the general public. Make sure that there's nothing.
You want to see them quick, that's what I was trying to do earlier.
Sir, I think we asked you to talk to our public information office to determine what you could do or couldn't do with them.
Sir? It is my understanding that you would like to give some type of a video presentation. Is that correct?
No,
No? Do you?
not video. They're just your documents, like your, the PUD and the zoning maps and like that. They're documents that you already have.
They're handouts?
I don't have handouts. I just
Okay.
I put them on there because I thought it when I called earlier.
Okay. First of all, sir, excuse me, state your name and your address for our record.
I'm Henry Gaffney. I'm at 4027 Avenue, Palais Royale, Covington. I'm the first house on the right going into the Versailles subdivision. You won't see it on the map because they were real clever and eliminated that part of the map, so it would show the whole subdivision isn't being protected by this.
Is there something you want to provide to the commission at this
Well, I
time?
submitted a letter this afternoon, okay? I emailed the letter to you, and then I wanted to explain it in here. I'd called last week, and I talked with...
Okay, if you'd like to explain the basis of your opposition, we'd be pleased to
Well,
listen.
First of all, when they were doing this PUD, they're trying to expand the development of that commercial area, okay? Add to it 92 acres. I'm giving you my understanding, okay? And I've gone to the different presentations our HOA has made to us, POA. This is why it helped, pointing to the maps would help. Anyway, what I don't understand in the documents I'm looked at is if you're planning, you should not only look at the part they're going to add to the corporate composite commercially zoned area, including the current businesses, but that doesn't do that. It doesn't address any of that. All it does is address the new part. That's like, I'm Air Force, retired Air Force. That's like me deciding to change the design of a wing on the plane and just sticking it on without looking at the rest of the plane and the impact it's going to have on it. That I don't understand. Second of all, and this is just generally because I have a problem with the fact that I don't think it covers all. If you're going to develop a composite commercially zoned area, you ought to be looking at the whole big picture, not just that little piece that these people want to add to it, and see what impact that has. Now, it also has a direct impact on me because they sold this with all these PUD presentations with the idea they were going to insulate and protect all of Versailles homes from the noise, the environment with setbacks and green spaces and stuff like that. Well, they did. For out of 272 homes, they did it for 271. The home they didn't do it for was mine, the first house going in the subdivision, because there's commercial property directly across the street. You know, and when they made up that map, that PUD map, it conveniently leaves out the area up where my house is and the stuff around there. In other words, it doesn't even present the corporate composite commercial property that's affected by this whole thing. And if I had the map, I could point to you in terms of what I'm talking about better. But I think that at the end of my letter, I made the point that I said I think the PUD map should be tell them to redraw and expand to reflect and address the effect the PUD will cause and generate in the involvement of the composite business park, including all the contiguously zoned properties that are currently there, and that will ultimately result in an expanded development of the area from this PUD, this corporate area. Second, that the PUD address the impact of the St. Tammany Parish on this new composite business park. When I say composite, not only what they want to do, but what's already there, okay, as a whole. And I don't see any of that on any of the maps or any of the words addressed, you know. Including the current new business that will result. And the third thing is the PUD give all the homes in the two Versailles subdivisions. There's actually two subdivisions. It's kind of weird because you have Versailles and Versailles Estates, and they call it one, but it's really two that operates as one. So you call it like you want. But anyway, the equal protection insulation with setbacks and green spaces from the invasion of this commercial environment, you know, which is kind of way residential areas look at it. I mean, they don't want this noise and all this other stuff, but they want to preserve the property, the value of the home. I feel like my value of my home is seriously impacted by having commercial property across the street, because no one's going to want to buy something when if you've been down in Versailles Estates, you go down Holiday Boulevard, and it doesn't even follow the contour, so it floods the property. That's another issue. But anyway, it swoops up and then it dead ends there and turns left into Versailles Estates. Well, if you build commercial enterprise of any kind, even a doctor's office and stuff across the street, you're going to have a traffic problem. You know, has anyone looked at that or considered? You got a traffic problem now. You know, the people, I got a stop sign put up at night, 9 out of 10 run it. In the daytime, 7 out of 10 run it. They're going around the corners 30, 40 miles an hour sometimes. Knocked down my mailbox 3 times last year. Drive on the lawn. You know, when you let someone establish a commercial business across the street with that, with traffic, what's going to happen? It's going to get worse. So I have a personal interest. You know, but I'm also looking at from the parish's point of view is the fact that you can never look at something just in isolation. You got to look at everything that's impacted. And you have an immense amount of commercially zoned property around there. And it's all contiguous to each other. And it's contiguous to this new proposed 92-acre park. And I think that should all be addressed in a global way so that you end up with something really nice when you get finished. Anyway. So I object to it the way it is. I think it ought to be revisited, and I think it's just, it kind of annoyed me at the last PUD meeting because they present this thing and, you know, under the auspices that, hey, we've made a touchdown. We've got all the houses in Versailles protected. They didn't make a touchdown. They dropped the ball on the 99-yard line. They fumbled. You know, they didn't protect them all. And maybe no one cares about one house, okay? Well, I do. It's mine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition? This time we'll go into rebuttal. Mr. Morone.
Thank you, Mr. Manella. With all due respect to Mr. Gabney, there seems to be a little bit of confusion as to maybe what we're doing this evening, what we're not doing this evening, and maybe where lots 7 and 8 are located. Let me first start by, if I understood correctly, I believe that Mr. Gabney lives well to the north of where these parcels are located. I believe that he is up nearer to Holiday Drive. These parcels that we're talking about are down along the interstate. And in fact, the agreement that I mentioned to you earlier between the developer and the HOA dealt a great deal with the buffers that would be in place. And if you will look at Lot 7, you will see that between the lots in Versailles, there is a large piece of green space. I think it's identified as Lot GS2. That agreement deals in large part with that green space. What can be done, what can't be done, whose rights to it. It gives rights, in fact, some ownership to the association there. So all of these buffer areas were discussed in great detail. There is an agreement between the HOA that was voted on by the HOA before it was executed. So great care was taken to make sure that this project does not negatively impact Versailles. And again, Versailles voted in favor of that agreement, and part of that agreement is the support for this project. But again, I think in fairness to Mr. Gabney, I believe that where he described his home would be well to the north, which would be up, a very long way from what we're talking about. The addition of commercial property is not what we're doing here this evening. The PUD itself, as you know, is not what we're doing. We're not changing the PUD. We're not adding anything to the PUD. The PUD is what it is, which is a little bit cliche, but that was approved some time ago. The new area that I believe he's talking about is the area that is on the east and west side of Holiday Square Boulevard that now extends all the way to Holiday Drive. And that's done. That zoning is in place. Those lots are permitted. That street is built. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about this evening. We're making no changes whatsoever to land use. In fact, we're not even talking about commercial property. We're talking about multifamily property that was rezoned some months ago. So again, With regards to the issues that are before you this evening, we are simply asking to create as a lot of record Lot 7 and Lot 8. There are no changes to the PUD. There is no infrastructure required. Both of these lots more than meet the minimum for the requirements for the zoning, and I would respectfully submit to you could and should be approved this evening. If there are any other questions that the commissioners might have with regards to anything that I've said this evening, or submittal, or anything else that Mr. Gabney was concerned about that I did not address, I would be happy to do so at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Yes, you may, sir. You may come up right now. You'll be given 5 minutes. If you come to the podium, excuse me, sir. Sir, if you please come to the podium, address.
First of all, that PUD was never submitted to the residents of Versailles Estates to vote on. I argued that it should be, that these people shouldn't be just doing this unilaterally, the representatives, which are a couple of the board members and some of the other people, that this is a pretty significant action. And I think that whether you think they'll all agree or not agree, it doesn't make any difference. You submit it to the vote of the subdivision, and I don't know where he got that information. But anyway, if for no other reason, that's one reason it should be delayed. Second of all, he basically supported my point. He's concerned, I don't know where Lot 7 is, but he's concerned about that the part down where his small part, the 92 acres of the whole composite, affects Versailles subdivision. And he's ignoring how the rest of the composite, meaning their part plus the rest of the contiguous property, affects this whole subdivision. And so he basically supported my point. I appreciate that. And you can't do that. You can't look at pieces. You got to look at the whole structure of something. You look at the whole airplane. You don't just look at the wing you're going to change, okay? And so I have a problem with that still. And that's another thing too, is in the last presentation on the PUD, they showed that they were making a deal with the people that he represents to get the strip of land that goes down and ends at Holiday Boulevard between Verizon. If you know, a lot of people don't know that big block building in there is the Verizon cell bank. But anyway, between there and the swimming pool, which is across the street from me, okay? They've made some sort of a deal, and yet when I asked Ms. Lambert about if that was included in the review, she didn't know what I was talking about. You know, one of the things that bothers me is when I called Ms. Lambert and I asked her to send me a copy of the PUD they submitted. I had one they said they submitted, but I wanted to see the one they actually submitted. And I asked to see a copy of the final review report. Well, she sent me a copy of the PUD and a copy of what I understood to be the final review report. It was dated January 2017, January 31st. They've been negotiating, making all kinds of changes in setbacks. Some of these green spaces go from commercial to residential property rezoned as soon as they agreed to all that stuff, and they did expand some of that stuff. They talked about it at length. But again, they didn't talk about the impact on the whole subdivision, the impact on the whole composite commercial property, including the commercial property contiguous to this new park portion. Anyway, and what it happened. So basically, he agrees with me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I mean, you back off and you look at the big picture and seeing what's happening there. I don't know how you get in these myopic perspectives, but you know, and so I raised two issues in my letter. If you read it, if you haven't seen it yet, anyway, it kind of explains it from the commercial property zone perspective, and then the Versailles perspective, and particularly the way my home is impacted.
Thank you, sir. This time we'll close it to the public. At this time, we close it to the public and we'll bring it to the commission. Commissioner Davis.
Couple of questions for Paul. Yeah, I recall when the first came up with the PUD for sales, and I recall we did have town hall meetings on all this with is that correct?
Multiple meetings over years.
Right.
We
And-
had
and we
meetings
talked
on
and we
this.
talked about the swimming pool, and we talked about the green space in between the swimming pool to the nearest
Yes.
commercialization and stuff like that. So I believe everything is the way it's supposed to be. And all you're trying to do is take these existing last two properties, which I believe from the original PUD had some lots in them,
Had multiple lots within it.
had multiple lots in them,
Correct.
and it would not approve, basically, or you changed your mind on what you were doing with them.
We did.
And now we're just asking for them to put them into legal lots of record so you could put multifamily dwelling there.
Correct.
Is that basically what we're getting into?
That's correct. That's correct.
I don't have a problem with it. I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Davis to approve. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
I have a question for Paul.
Yes, sir.
On where lots 7 and 8 meet, there's a C3. Do you see that? The lot line, the property line? It has a
Yes.
little jog to the.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, it's a good question. That is half of what will be a cul-de-sac.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So what will ultimately happen is, as Lot 7 is built out, from that jog back to Holiday Square Boulevard will likely be dedicated to the parish as a public street. So that's accommodating for what will be a cul-de-sac.
All right. I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Is there any further comments? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Davis to approve, second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Final subdivision review, 2017-826-FP, Versailles Business Park Phase 2, Ward 3, District 5. Developer owner, Dobbins Group. Engineer, Duplantis Design Group, P.C. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Riker Taladano. Staff.
There was no construction on this project. All construction will be accomplished under a commercial building permit. There are no comments for this project and no warranty obligation is required. The staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision. Since the developer has no end users, mandatory developmental fees are not due prior to signing the subdivision plat, but are due upon building permit application. This subdivision is within the urban growth boundary line.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone again. No further comments. I think the discussion on the last case encompassed what we're doing here, so we would ask for final approval, please.
Thank you. Are there any other comments in favor of the request? Is there any opposition to the request? Yes, sir. Any comments, sir? Just you're in opposition? Prior? Thank you, sir. Anyone else in opposition? Mr. Marone, we get any rebuttal? It's time we'll close it to the public and we'll bring it to the commission. Commissioner Davis.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Davis to approve. Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Any further comments of the commission? A motion by Commissioner Davis to approve, second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Please vote.
Motion carries.
2017-828-FP, Beatico Creek, Bubble 2, Phase 1, Ward 1, District 1. Developer owner, Dobbins Group. Engineer, Kelly McHugh and Associates, Inc. Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Marty Dean. Staff.
Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made on November 2nd, 2017. The inspection disclosed that all concrete roads are constructed, road shoulders constructed, and the roadside ditches are constructed, and temporary signage has been installed. The following uncompleted items existed at the time of final inspection and will be completed before the plats are signed. On the subdivision plat, number 1, 911 addresses are needed for each lot. Number 2, revise the typical street cross-section to reflect as-built construction. This comment is applicable to all as-built sheets. Number 3, all servitudes shown on the paving and drainage plan must be included on the final plat. Number 4, add final plat to the title block. Number 5, unless a waiver is requested, lots 710 and 718 are required to be side-loaded to conform with restrictive covenant number 10. Number 6, include a dedication statement for the street name signs, traffic control signs, and mounting poles. On the as-built paving and drainage plan, number 7, roadside ditches must be regraded to provide positive flow as well as to agree with as-built drainage structures, high points, low points, and target culvert elevations. Number 8, revise section BB to show a 3-to-1 slope instead of a 1-to-3 slope. Number 9, section CC does not appear to be required on the as-built plans. Remove this section if it's not need to be shown. Revise this on all applicable sheets. Number 10, the note to relocate the existing ditch here needs to be updated to show that this work has been accomplished. Number 11, include a legend for the as-built elevations and proposed elevations. Number 12, existing walkway and ditch on lot 677 and the ditch on lot 730 should have been relocated during the construction. Revise the as-bills to reflect this across all applicable sheets. On the as-built sewer and water plan, as-built elevations must be provided for the inverts of all catch basins. Additional sewer and water comments are that a letter of acceptance from the utility provider is required and a clear water test for the water lines is required. As-built signage plan, number 14, remove the stabilized construction entrance from the sheet as it's no longer in place. Should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of 2,680 linear feet times $25 per linear foot for $67,000 for a period of 2 years. Staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request subject to the developer complying with all comments and no plats to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. No mandatory developmental fees are required since a public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. The subdivision is within the urban growth boundary line. Revised drawings will not be accepted prior to the November 14th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting to ensure that any additional comments established at the meeting can be incorporated into the revised plans.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone on behalf of Beatico Creek Preserve LLC with regards to Beatico Creek Bubble 2 Phase 1. There are, most of the staff's comments deal with plat revisions. I've worked with Mr. McHugh's office, and all of those are either have been made or can be made very shortly after this meeting. There are a few substantive items that I'd like to touch on. In particular, item 5, dealing with the situation where a driveway has to be so many feet from a corner. We've dealt with that a lot over the last several months. And in this instance, lots 710 and 718 can be side-loaded, so we are not requesting a waiver. We will side-load those two parcels as suggested. With regards to item 7, I spoke with the contractor, Mr. Hambacher, today, and he confirmed to me that all of the work in the ditches are completed. All the dressing has been done, and there is no more field work left to be done. There's positive flow in the ditches as required. With that said, we can make the other adjustments to the plat as noted by Mr. Watson, and we would respectfully request your approval of Beatico Creek Bubble 2 Phase 1. Be happy to answer any questions any of the commissioners might have.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Lauren.
Mr. Morone, one quick question.
Yes, sir.
As you pointed out, most of these things are just paperwork corrections that have to be made. But just for the record, do you concur with all of the comments of the staff?
We do, yes.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear.
Commissioner Richard.
Subject to staff comments, I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Richard to approve. Commissioner Randolph. Second by Commissioner Randolph. Any further comments? Please vote.
Motion carries.
Proposed amendments to Ordinance 499, we have none. Is there any old business to come before the commission? Any new business? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Just made, you're 7 o'clock.